have a special guest with me tonight. You guys know that we're really advocates here for workers' rights. Jay has agreed to come on tonight to tell us about his story with his former employer. So Jay, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I do want to say before we get into the story that you are aware by coming on and talking about this, that it does run a risk for you per se.
Yes,
right?
It does. Yep. It's just, I don't know what else to do here because the way that situation is, the financial situation, I got to take the risk.
I totally understand. All right. So Jay, why don't we start off with you explaining to everyone what happened at your former employer?
Well, in December, very late December, I was hired by a local business that runs a Culver's restaurant. It was just opening up. I was hired in as a head porter, which is you come in at 6 a.m, work till 4 p.m. and half your shift is getting the store ready to open because the store opens at 10 a.m. And I worked 2 porter shifts. And then right after that, the owner's girlfriend, her name is Allie, she messaged me and said if I could help the support team during the on the grill during the afternoon and evenings. And I didn't realize at the time that it was a secret demotion from the porter position. And then over the course of the next few weeks, Chance Malin, the owner, would hire porters behind my back.
Okay, really quick, Jay, can you explain to everyone where is Culver's located and what exactly does a porter do?
Okay, this Culver's restaurant is located right here in my hometown, Monroe. It's about a 15-minute walk from my apartment. And what the porter does is in the morning at 5 a.m., this is on a truck night. If a truck is supposed to come through, they'll arrive with the key at 5 a.m, help put the truck away, then filter the fryers, clean the grill off, get the store ready and clean by opening time at 10 a.m. So that means they would filter the fryers, sometimes change the oil if it needs it, clean the grill, clean the hoods because you got to clean the hoods, clean out the parking lot, make sure the parking lot's good, and by 10 o'clock be assigned at their station for the rest of the day, which is only going to be another 4 hours. So half your shift for a porter is while the store's closed.
Okay, that makes sense. The individuals, the people in this picture here, they're the ones that trained you, correct?
Well, this is the one in the middle there. His name is Alex. He was one of my trainers. He came from another store up in Owasso. Him and he's a co-owner of a store up there with Ross Fernandez. And Chance, the owner of the Monroe store, came from this particular store. He was trained there.
Okay. What happened here? Because I was reading through your notes and it seemed like there seemed to be, or they weren't really clear to you, I guess, in the beginning, or they tried to make changes along the way. And I know that you actually sacrificed things when you took this position as well. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. When they asked me to cover for or help the support team on the grill, during the afternoon and evening, that means my porter shifts were supposed to be 50 hours a week. So that's 10 hours overtime. And they hired me in at $13 an hour to start. And then if you're after 40 hours, that 10 hours is time and a half. So that's going to be close to like $18.50 an hour after that for 10 hours. So I was looking at, when I done my math, I was looking at $715 a week if I was going to get the 50 hours a week. And when they wanted me to help the support team instead, I only got the 38 to 40 hours. And then on February 1st, because I submitted this schedule to the Department of DHS, they cut me off on food stamps on February 1st. So I was struggling right from the get-go.
Now, can you explain to everyone, why were you cut from food stamps? I think this is important for people to understand.
Basically in Michigan, I don't know how it is nationally, but in the state of Michigan, if you're living by yourself, just one person with no dependents whatsoever, and you have your own place or whatever, the most you can make, and this is gross, this is not take home pay. The most you can make is like 15 grand a month, or 15 grand a year. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anything over that, you get cut off. And
Okay.
usually, places like this, like a fast food joint, they'll pay anywhere between 18 to 22,000 gross pay a year. So that's why it kind of hurts when this situation happened. I wasn't fully recovered from the pandemic, and I was going through a eviction diversion plan with the state of Michigan, that national one with Sarah, CERA, to get help for COVID relief for back rent and all that. So that was the entire last year, and to come off of that to go into this job, and you're thinking, wow, finally, because like I said, that's $715 a week. Even if Sarah would have declined my request for rental assistance, if they would have declined it, I could have climbed out of my own predicament,
Right.
in about 4 weeks if I was getting, the 50-hour schedule.
So basically, you actually lost benefits by taking this job, but you took this job because they were going to pay you more money so you wouldn't have to stress about the cost of food to begin with. But then they didn't pay you the money they were supposed to pay you.
Yeah, they started me out at the only thing that was truthful is they started me at $13 an hour, and then in a couple of weeks they did bump me up to 14. But the position I had was they had me working, coming in at noon and working till 8, and that's all on the grill. No rotation whatsoever.
Okay. Were you hourly?
Yeah.
Okay. So they didn't pay you for all of the hours that you worked?
Oh, they paid me. It's just that the position they hired me in the porter position, after working 2 porter shifts, they kind of secretly demoted me from that position and said, "We know what, we're going to schedule you 12 to 8, and that's it." And then I find out later they were hiring other porters behind my back. And every week, when I would confront the owner of the establishment, Chance, he would always have some excuse saying, "Hey, I got 70 other employees to worry about," or I misplaced the porter keys. As soon as I find where I put them, I'll give one to you. It was a lot of breadcrumbing and a lot of gaslighting.
So what did they ever explain to you why you were demoted?
They have when I confronted Chance about it for the final time, when I noticed that I walked in to work and I noticed that people I trained were promoted over me, and I was upset. When I confronted him, I asked him, this is like the porter situation all over again. And his exact words was that it was a regrettable situation. This is the guy that owns the facility. His name is on the door. There's no regrettable situations. There's only regrettable opportunities. There was nothing stopping him at that moment from giving me the porter position or promoting me to something higher.
Right. Right. And they still hired other people for the porter position. So I'm curious, do you know did you have a chance to talk to them and find out if they were being paid the same or no?
Well, when I didn't get the chance to talk to those porters, but eventually my nephew ended up with the porter position and the porter key when he got a job there. And the owner, Chance Malin, told him and the other porter, his name was Stefan, they told him in a separate group chat, they use this group me thing. He told them in this private chat that he would pay them $17 an hour under 4 conditions. They would never call off. They would come in on time at 5 or 6 in the morning, get his store ready to open. And the fourth and final condition was, don't tell anyone that I'm paying you $17 an hour, because I'm paying you more than some of my managers.
See, I have to add this in here because I have to say this. When I tell you guys, this is why your supervisors don't want you to tell your coworkers what you're making. This is exactly why, because
Yep.
they don't want you to find out that somebody else who may have the same position as you, may have the same experience as you, that they're being paid more. This doesn't make any sense to me. From what I understand, there was some type of discrimination going on as well. Can you talk about that?
Well, I'm 48 and they hired me in as this porter. I am a 48-year-old type 2 diabetic, and I'm pretty much covered by the ADA. And a lot of times, according to the law, is people over 40 do get discriminated against. It's really rough. It's really hard. So these laws are to protect us. And what I experienced was all these porters that Chance hired behind my back were 20 years younger, at least 20 to 25 years younger, and maybe 100 pounds lighter. You know, I'm 235 pounds, so I got a lot of weight to move. I'm going to be a bit slow, especially with a plantar fibroma on my foot from diabetes and diabetic nerve pain. But the employer, Chance, instead of demoting me, under the law, he had an obligation to provide me with a reasonable accommodation under the ADA, and he didn't. He made excuses and hired other people behind my back, and now that's where we're at. And when I confronted him on June 3rd over this situation, and that's when he told me, he told me first that it was a regrettable situation. I also then pointed at this poster on the wall about growth and career, you know, how do you advance? And I asked him, I was like, what is up with this poster and its reference to ServSafe certifications? Because ServSafe certifications is strange to me. It's before my time. And yeah, I guess it's a relatively new thing. It came out in 1998. And it's part of the National Restaurant Association. They're the ones that make these make this ServSafe certifications. Anyway, I asked him, and his exact words were, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that. That's only for managers." And that pretty much told me I'm never getting promoted around here.
I have to say to everyone listening, I've seen this happen before. So when Jay reached out to me about his story, I'm like, absolutely, we have to, you know, if you're willing to come on, people need to hear about this. There was actually a case at Boston University. This happened years ago, where there was an employee there, similar situation to Jay, where they were able to prove that there was age discrimination that was going on. They were hiring people that were younger, and they were offering them more money, at the same time reducing the hours of that employee. So they were able to prove that. It's not easy to prove age discrimination in court. I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know that now.
Oh, yeah.
It is difficult to prove. This guy, I'll put his picture up here, Chance, he can easily come back and say, well, it just so happened that all those people that I hired just happened to be younger than him. It's very hard to prove that you are being discriminated against because of age in court. But this is him. Now I see it says State Farm insurance agent. So he also works for State Farm as well.
He also, in Lansing, he owns a State Farm insurance bureau. And when I left his Culver's restaurant, when he pretty much pushed me out on the final day, his girlfriend was the one that was working there, Allie Chamberlain. Allie, she's the one that hired me for the Culver's store. So she's pretty much the one that's working at the insurance company while he's overseeing the store, the Culver's restaurant.
This is very interesting. So I have to ask too, what concerns me also is the fact that he's also an insurance agent. You know, so it's like he probably knows certain things that he can get away with. I just don't know. This is very, it makes me feel kind of grimy. It really does. It's just I like I don't know how to explain it, but he makes me feel some kind of way. And I feel like I don't know. The other employees, for example, in this picture, do you know, are they still employed there at that
Okay,
location?
that picture there, that's from the Culver store in Owasso. That is Alex's store.
Okay.
Chance's store, I gave you links to the grand opening video to Facebook, and those are the ones that that's the only photos that we that were ever made of our store just during the grand opening. There was 2 videos on Facebook where they had a
Okay.
ribbon cutting ceremony and everything.
Let
And
me pull that
most of
up.
the managers are still there to this day that were in that video.
Let me go ahead and pull that up.
Yep.
Did you happen to well, let me play the video first
Yep.
because I want people to see this video here, the ribbon cutting. Okay, here we go. I've never heard of a Culver's until you told me about this story, but this is very interesting. Okay. So this is, I'll play it one more time because it went by kind of fast.
Yeah.
Do you know if any of these employees are still there?
Only the one that the black lady on the left, Lakeisha, she's still there.
Okay.
And Chance is still there. Allie's still there. Technically, she's still technically the hiring manager there, even though she's working at the State Farm Agency. And then other people to the right of Chance are still there. Those are some of the managers. The guy on the far end there with holding the ribbon, that's Alex. And the person next to him in the background would be Ross. Those are the ones that are from the Owasso store, and they're the ones that trained me on the grill and everything. And
Okay.
yeah, when Chance gave me the head porter position and promised me it was the key and the security code and the whole 9 yards, Alex and Ross were like shaking my hand and saying congratulations on it. That's a really important. It's an important role in the company, because I'm there first thing in the morning. I'm the first person there, and I got a race to get everything cleaned up.
So what happened after they demoted you?
Well, when after I confronted Chance, and he pretty much told me that he insinuated that even a promotion to manager wasn't even in the cards, because I kind of caught him in that with that poster when I asked him that question. I pressed him a little further, and that's when he I'm never going to forget. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. When I pressed him further, he changed gears, and he started to argue my case for me by rattling off everything I do for him and everything I do for his store. Jay, man, you come in, you help porter. If somebody calls off, you sharpen the spatulas, you get this place going. You know everything in the kitchen. You can fix the can opener. And I'm like, wow, you're arguing my case for me. There's nothing stopping you from promoting me to assistant manager now. Then he would gaslight me and manipulate me, saying stuff like, I tell the managers to find 40 hours in the schedule just for you, and I've got 70 other employees to worry about. At one point, he threw in my face the situation where I was going to lose my apartment, and from a default judgment against me for eviction, and I couldn't pay the $960 I owed electronically because the leasing system blacked me out and disabled it while I was going through an eviction. So the only thing they would accept was a money order. And here I am at 4 o'clock in the afternoon taking my break when I get a phone call from the landlord here saying, if you can't get $970, $960 in my hand in the next 10 or 15 minutes, you're evicted. You'll enter default judgment. And I'm like, oh crap. And I start hyperventilating and I start having a panic attack. And I explained to Chance, I just lost my apartment. And he's like, I tell you what, let me loan you some money out of the state. I'll loan you whatever you need to cover the balance or whatever you. And at one point he did when I was a little light in rent. He did loan me $200, and the next paycheck I did pay him back right on time as promised. And then the month after that, I was hit with $100 in legal fees for the eviction. So that added an extra $100 on top of my $735 rent, bringing it to $835. Once again, I'm $100 short. So I'm like, well, let me ask Chance again. I asked him, and he said, we'll figure something out before you're into your shift. And then when that happened, when he was about to leave and he saw me, he turned around, went back in the office, came back out, motioned me to follow him towards the utility room where the washer and dryer is. And pretty much went on to insult my intelligence by saying, I'm going to do this, but only on one condition. It can't happen again. I don't know what it is you spend your money on, man, but you need to save some of it. You make good money here.
Okay. Quick, two questions. The first question is, when he loaned you money, where did that money come from? Did that come from him personally, or?
It's either, well, I'm going to assume that since his name is on the door and it's, the facility says proudly owned and operated by Chance Malin, I'm going to assume that if it didn't come out of his wallet at that time, it came out of the safe in the office.
Well, first of all, that is not supposed to happen. Having been one, like I've worked in the restaurant industry for years. I know, like, first of all, you are not supposed to take money out of that safe to use for those kind of purposes, even if it is a loan. Yeah. So if that's what happened, first of all, that was wrong. Like he shouldn't have done that. Two, he was pretty much your boss, correct?
He was pretty much, well, yeah. He owned the facility, so he was the owner. He was the HR guy too, you could say. He was human resources. He was all of the above. He was everybody's boss.
So him loaning you money, I don't like the type of power that it basically positioned him in. He was already in a powerful position over you by being your boss. And then to loan you money and say, well, as long as you pay me back. Now your boss knows, and this is no fault of yours, but I'm saying now your boss knows that you're in a desperate situation. And they say, I'm going to loan you this money. Just make sure you pay me back. That gives him even more power over you. So I don't like that he did that. And then second of all, I also think that he could have solved this quickly just by promoting you back to the original position that he hired you for. And I don't know what the employment laws are in Michigan. I know here in Massachusetts, it's pretty much at will. So when I worked at Boston University, they had a policy that they can fire you or let go of you anytime without reason. What are the employee laws in Michigan?
Pretty much the same. It's at will. But what we have to remember is at will employment does not mean at will discrimination or at will sexual harassment or anything of the sort. If there's laws that forbid it, then at will won't cover you.
I don't.
And the worst of it all is you were talking about the power that he had over me. Like you said, he really kind of put me in this position when he, quote unquote, demoted me from that porter position and then refused to promote me to a higher position like an assistant manager. Exactly. Had he done that from the get-go, I wouldn't have needed this loan.
Exactly. He put you in this position. It's just, was there any type of sympathy there or any type of, did he try to even like empathize, I guess, with you, with your current situation? Because the reason why I asked that question is because as an employee, you shouldn't have to be faced with that scrutiny because you came forward about a personal situation, personal financial situation. A lot of times people don't want to tell their bosses about that, right? Like most people don't want to come forward. So it takes an amount of humility to come forward and tell your boss, listen, I'm in a bind here financially. And I just felt like it's almost like he took advantage of that, so to speak. But did he have any type of sympathy towards you in reference to your situation?
I don't think so. I think that his sympathy was what I would call provisional. Basically, he didn't really want to help me at all. He didn't really care about helping me at all. But there were he had female managers in that store that he cared about their opinion. And here I am hyperventilating in their lobby and the optics are bad. He didn't strike me as a person that has any sympathy. He fakes it. I think that what pressured him to propose loaning me that money in the first place from the get-go is when I'm out in that lobby, out in that dining room, hyperventilating over a default judgment of losing my apartment, and all the females up front, all the minors, all the girls trying to calm me down. And I think that situation, that kind of pressure, it's like, hey, I'm looking like a bad guy here. I better, say something to save face. And that's why he said, yeah, I'll loan you the money or whatever. And then he said, don't tell anybody about this. So, well, of course he doesn't want anybody to tell any, it's like when he told my nephew, Josh, hey, don't tell anybody I'm paying you $17 an hour for the job. I was only going to give your uncle 14.
Wow. This is what do you know since this has taken place, since this situation happened, are you still there, and why or why not?
Basically, my last few weeks there were so hard because I filed my complaint with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights for discrimination on June 3rd, right after that confrontation with Chance just didn't sit right with me. He had a chance to promote me and he's using circular logic. It didn't make sense to me. So later that night, when I come home here, I filed a complaint with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, and they will dual file with the EEOC in Detroit. That's why I went through the state agency this time. I'd rather, because the EEOC is a nightmare. I've been through them before.
Yes.
I don't want to go through that again. I've danced with them twice, never again. So I went with the state agency, and then this was June 3rd. And from June 3rd all the way up to July 29th, my final day, I'm trying my darndest just to, basically I was quiet quitting, I guess you could say. Keeping my head down and trying to tolerate the situation as much as I could. And some of the disparate treatment was still going on. I would get yelled at by a manager for doing something a 20-year-old just got done doing. Stuff like that was still driving me nuts. But the day before I left, the day before I walked out, there was an instance of disparate treatment between me and the general manager. Her name was Darian. One of the things that I would do is I would walk up to the middle counter. It's a position called middle, where the window is straight through the door and you can see right through the kitchen and into the dining room. There's a little ticket machine for when the orders come in. So I'm pulling them off and I set them up in order on the rack. And Darian yells at me saying, Jason, I got middle. You've got things to dump over on your screen. Go back to fryers. I go over to my screen and I see nothing but fries. So I don't have to drop anything. And I bump it off. I just bump it off the screen. I turn around and Tony, the person that was on grill, I can't remember his last name, so it's not relevant. He's putting a double deluxe in a 4x4 box. Darian's right behind him, congratulating him. I'm like, why did I get singled out? And he's getting, what is that? And it ruined my night. I was in a bad mood the entire night. And come 8 o'clock, when it was time for me to leave around 8 o'clock, 8:15, I pull another assistant manager, his name is Elijah, into the office, and I tell him about this disparate treatment, and I let it slip. I was like, at this point, I don't care anymore what happens. So I told him, I was like, on June 3rd, I filed a complaint with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. And he acted like he was very supportive, and his exact words were to me, I can see why, I can understand why, and I think Chance thinks he can get away with it. That was Elijah's very words to me. And then he said, I can talk to Chance to see where his head is regarding another promotion. And I said, no, don't bother. Because, and my exact words to Elijah was, the only way I was getting the porter position or a promotion to assistant manager is if the EEOC makes Chance do it. That's it. They would have to either make him do it or settle. And I'm like, just keep this between me, you, and Darian, and let it go. Well, the very next day, I come in at noon, and by 1:15, the owner, Chance, he's being very toxic. This was my mother. This is June 29th. This would have been my mother's 81st birthday. So I'm depressed. I didn't want to be anywhere, let alone at work. And I come in at noon. The place opens at 10 a.m. And I come in at noon to, they have signed me to the bun station, and there's nothing downstairs. There's no lettuce. There's no extra lettuce. There's no extra tomatoes. Everything I need for the bun station, for the bun line, I'd have to go and get by myself. I'd have to go back and get it. Even the prep wasn't done. You know, here we are 2 hours into opening, and the store is not open ready. And Chance comes up to me and says, I don't want you being late on buns. Well, an hour later, I'm late. I mean, my whole screen is red. I'm on this station by myself. And he comes up to me and says, what I noticed you're doing, Jason, is you're only working one-handed. And I look at him, I look at him like he's an idiot, because I'm going for surgery for the trigger fingers he pretty much caused by not rotating me off the grill. I'm having surgery. You know, I'm like, I'm in pain. And he says, well, can we just put you on fryers? And I'm like, I'm still using this hand that's going to be injured. Okay, well, how about we just have you either dump buns or pick up fries? And I'm like, Chance, come on. What is this all of a sudden? And I asked him, I was like, it's as if you're suddenly saying I'm too slow to work for you. And I'll never forget what he said next. He said, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm trying to run a business here. And then he caught himself and he's like, and I'm just trying to mentor you and help you. And I'm like, I started tuning him out. I'm like, where were you months ago when I needed, you know, a boss like this, somebody to mentor me and, you know, and whatnot? Where were you? And when I come back to earth, like 30 seconds later, I heard him say, or I'll just get somebody else. And I said, you do that. Took off my apron, put my coat on, took the hat off, and walked out, and that was it. I only lasted an hour and 15 minutes into my shift. I was done.
Yeah, you were basically sabotaged. Is basically
in many ways.
For those who are listening, if you ever have this type of experience where you're at work and you feel like you're being singled out, other people are not being held accountable. Yeah, they're setting you up to fail. You're being gaslit. They're trying to push you out.
Yep.
Just letting you know, it happens. I've seen it happen. They decide who they want to play with and who they don't want to play with. And so the people that they don't want to play with, they'll try to single them out. They'll be extra hard on them compared to other employees, and the gaslighting all day long. And it's really frustrating. Like when you sent me the email, I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I know also in reference to EEOC, sometimes they can be just as difficult to deal with as HR. Yeah. They require a lot of evidence, and they'll come back and tell you, well, we can't really prove that it was because of this reason. So they can be frustrating to deal with too. I also know that seeking legal advice can also be really expensive. So where do you go from here?
Well, after that porter situation blew up back in March or whatever, when I found out that he was hiring other porters behind my back, that's when I started seeking legal advice. And I contacted Jeffrey Feiger Law. And after, let's see, I've got the envelope right here. They sent me back this on March 9th and pretty much said, we're going to refer you to another firm. And they referred me to Morgan & Morgan. And from there, Morgan & Morgan, a guy by the intake coordinator there at that law firm, his name is Noah Ooms. We communicated for like 2 weeks back and forth email. And then suddenly he sends me a letter, or actually an email stating that regretfully, although we think your case has merit, we can't take it at this time. So it's when I look at that, I'm thinking it's either they can't win. They don't think that they can really win this case. And at the time in March, yeah, my case was pretty weak because a lot of the more this was before him loaning the money out of the safe and this, that, and the other. So at the time, that case was probably pretty weak. And I really didn't have any kind of smoking gun or circumstantial evidence. But as the time went on, when the 3 months became 6 months worth of employment, and I've gotten more documentation and I'm creating, I'm logging everything. That's when I began to think, I think this is discrimination. This is weird. I need to look into this. And that night when he pretty much at the same time, he reminded me of a freak with two heads where you argue for something and against something at the same time. That's when I was like, you know what? If you're willing to gaslight and manipulate me and stuff like that, blow smoke up my posterior, maybe I will invite the EEOC and let you talk to them, see if they will fall for your garbage, because I was done. I didn't want to, I had enough by that time. And that's when I filed that complaint. And that was on June 3rd. That was my June 3rd was pretty much my 5th month anniversary. And as some of you might have known, when you're ever dealing with EEOC and discrimination, stuff like that, you only get like 180 days to file a claim. And here I am at 170 days. I was right at the wire. I was like, if I'm going to do something about this, I better do it now.
Yeah. Something I do want to tell people as well. HR backs management and management backs management, even when management is wrong.
And it's even worse when the facility that you're working at is owned and operated by the HR guy.
That's right.
He's all three.
That's right. So it's just, it's really unfortunate that this happened, Jay. One more question for you. Have you heard anything about your civil rights claim that you filed? Have you heard anything recently?
Not yet. I filed it in June 3rd, but it's a state agency. I don't know how backlogged they are. I'm going to imagine they are because of COVID and stuff like that. So it could be, I don't know how long it would take. It could be months.
This is terrible. Everyone that's watching, I hope you take this in. Some of you may be watching this and say, hey, some of these things sound similar to something I may be going through or something I experienced before at work. So Jay, I really do appreciate you coming on and telling your story. I know, it's a risk for you to come on, but thank you so much.
Briefly, real quick, is there a way that you could share my GoFundMe? Because right now I need like 800 just to keep this apartment or I'm screwed. And I'm trying to find another job. I'm trying to recover from the surgery. And I dropped a link there in your private chat if you could.
Yes. Eric, can you share that link? I think you just grabbed it. Okay. Let me put it in here. So here's Jay's GoFundMe here, you guys. The other thing that really is disturbing to me is the fact that you lost SNAP benefits because you took this job. So
Yes.
for people who don't understand, like that's not something that's just easy to jump back on. But it looks like your goal here is 1,200, right?
Yeah, just enough to pay this back rent. It's 815 now, and just to recover somewhat. That way I can get back to work because I don't want to sit around here. I have to, my hand is healed. It's healing now from the surgery. And that's another thing. This surgery didn't have to happen. Honestly, had he given me my porter position, I wouldn't have spent 37 and a half hours on that grill. I would have spent considerably less time. And that's what kind of caused the injuries requiring trigger finger surgery, and now it's still stiff. I gotta go to therapy for it.
One more question, Jay. Do you happen to have a Cash App as well?
I don't have Cash App or anything, but I do have PayPal.
Okay. What is your PayPal?
Let me double check. I should be under my full name, Jason Sizemore.
Yeah, some people don't like GoFundMe.
Yeah,
they have,
I don't blame. Well, it's because they charge. I don't blame them. But let's see.
So I'm adding in his PayPal as well, you guys. Definitely help Jay out if you can. Like we've been talking about housing insecurity. We've been talking about people being laid off. And I keep telling people, even though these job numbers, these record job creations or whatever, people are still struggling out there. But thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. And please stay in touch.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Alrighty. Bye.
Have a good one.